It was a frigid evening in October when I first noticed the change. Tiffany had gone out with her girlfriends. At least that's what she claimed. I remained at home, nursing a beer, channel surfing, not really paying attention to anything on screen. 7 years of marriage had taught me her habits, the subtle nuances that made her who she was. But that evening, something felt wrong. Her message earlier had been brief. Coming home soon. Love you. Basic. Ordinary. But I sensed the artificial cheerfulness behind it. She entered just after midnight, chuckling softly, her heels tapping against the hardwood. Her hair was slightly disheveled. Her face flushed, and there was an aroma clinging to her. Not her usual scent. Something muskier. More intense. A masculine cologne. I remained silent initially. Instead, I simply observed her as she removed her shoes, dropping her purse onto the countertop. Had fun? I inquired, maintaining a casual tone. She smiled too hastily. Yeah, it was great. Just drinks and gossip. The usual stuff. She glanced away while speaking. A clear sign of deception. I bobbed my head, feigning belief, but my instincts were already churning. I knew my wife and something was amiss. She settled onto the sofa, thumbing through her phone, giggling at something on the display. But she held it differently than she normally did, pressed against her chest, like a hidden treasure. I sipped my beer, maintaining a composed expression. There was no reason to make assumptions. Not yet. It was wiser to observe, to be patient, to allow the reality to reveal itself naturally. Several days elapsed, and Tiffany behaved as though nothing had shifted. Or at least that's how she presented it. She giggled at my humor, kissed me goodnight, sent me sporadic messages throughout the day as if everything was normal. But I recognized the truth. The sensation in my gut hadn't subsided. Then on Friday evening, she informed me she was going out again. Another ladies' night. I asked, keeping my voice casual. She nodded, fastening her earrings. Yeah, Amber and Katie want to try that new place downtown. I examined her momentarily. She looked stunning. Too stunning. A snug black dress I hadn't seen in quite some time. Her hair arranged in gentle waves. Fragrance just a touch more pronounced than usual. All right, I finally said. Enjoy yourself. She gave me a quick peck and grabbed her bag. Don't stay up for me. I did. And then 60 minutes later, my cell rang. It was Mark, my closest friend. Hey, man. I picked up. He didn't even greet me. Trevor, listen carefully. I'm at this new establishment right now. Tiffany's here. I straightened my posture. Yeah, I know. She mentioned going out with her friends. Mark paused. She is with them. But there are men here too. My grip tightened on the device. What are you saying? I mean, I've been observing for the last 30 minutes, and she's very friendly with one of them. Giggling. Making physical contact with his arm. Embracing him. He exhaled. Buddy, it looks like she's flirting to me. Everything within me went cold. I'm on my way. I declared, already searching for my keychain. I drove recklessly. My hands clenched around the steering wheel. My teeth gritted so hard they ached. Tiffany, my spouse. Laughing. Flirting. Touching another man. The mere thought ignited my fury. But then moments before I arrived, Mark phoned again. They're departing. I clenched my jaw. Are you certain? Yeah. She and her group just climbed into a rideshare. The guy she was with joined them too. Not certain where they're headed now. I exhaled forcefully. Okay. I'll join you shortly. When I finally reached the venue, it was still crowded. I noticed Mark near the doorway, finishing his drink. I approached him. Tell me the whole story. Mark sighed deeply. She wasn't overtly intimate with him or anything, but it wasn't merely friendly either. She was leaning in close, laughing excessively at his comments, placing her hand on his arm. He regarded me cautiously. It wasn't appropriate behavior for a married woman, Trevor. I remained silent momentarily. I just nodded. You okay? Mark inquired. Yeah. My tone was emotionless. I'm fine. But I wasn't. I departed the bar, returned home, and sat in the living area waiting. Tiffany didn't return immediately. 1 hour passed, then another. By the time the clock displayed 2 a.m., I heard the front entrance open. She entered smelling of liquor. Her face flushed. I rose to my feet. Where have you been? I told you. We visited that new place downtown. She replied, smoothly removing her heels. I tilted my head. That's strange. I was chatting with Mark earlier, and he mentioned he was at the same location tonight, but he didn't indicate seeing you there for a brief moment. Just a minuscule fragment of time. Her expression changed. A glimpse of something. Then equally swiftly, she regained composure. "Oh, yeah, we actually moved to a different bar afterward," she said, massaging her forehead as if trying to remember. Perhaps we had already left when he arrived. I gazed at her. She was deceiving me. I could detect it in her entire demeanor, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I simply nodded, letting it pass. Maybe she grinned, walking past me toward the staircase, but as I watched her depart, my suspicion evolved into something more profound. I wasn't merely imagining things. Something was wrong, and I was determined to discover what the following morning. Tiffany was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared pancakes. It was a cheerful, carefree melody, like someone without worries, like a woman who hadn't just returned at 2 a.m. with an excuse I knew was fabricated. She moved gracefully, nimble on her feet, carrying herself in her usual manner. After an evening out to anyone else, she appeared unburdened, but I knew better. Then her phone vibrated on the countertop. She ignored it. That was unusual. Tiffany typically never overlooked her phone. Social media, group messages, work communications. There was always a reason for her to check the screen, even out of habit. She navigated the kitchen as if she hadn't noticed it, but something about how she avoided looking in its direction made my insides clench. I glanced at her, then back at the device just as it buzzed again. The display illuminated. Landon. A name unfamiliar to me. My heart raced. It might be innocent. A colleague, a family acquaintance. But something in my gut, the same instinct that warned me something was wrong last night, indicated otherwise. "Who's Landon?" I inquired, nonchalantly, gesturing toward the phone. She barely looked up from cooking. "Oh, just someone from the office. He's in marketing. We were discussing a project last week." Smooth response. I nodded, appearing convinced, but something felt off. Tiffany wasn't employed in marketing. She worked in finance. What project? And why would she be messaging about work early on a weekend? Her phone vibrated again. I observed her peripherally. This time, I detected how her fingers tensed slightly, gripping the utensil, just a bit too firmly. How her lips compressed for just an instant, as if collecting herself. She was anxious. She was concealing something, but she didn't view the message. She continued as if everything was normal, moving through the kitchen like any ordinary morning. Then she planted a kiss on my cheek and headed upstairs to bathe as if she wasn't lying directly to my face. I waited until I heard water running. Then I reached for her device. We never had secrets. We knew each other's security codes. She knew mine. I knew hers. Without hesitation, I unlocked it. And instantly, everything I believed I understood about my wife crumbled. Last night was incredible. I can still sense you. My chest constricted. My eyesight clouded as I scanned through the communications. Wish we had additional time. I miss you already. Then came the images. Tiffany seated in a dimly illuminated restaurant, holding a wine glass, leaning toward a man I didn't recognize. Beaming. Chuckling. Radiant. It wasn't just a singular error. The messages extended back months longer than I wanted to accept. Hotel arrangements. Private jokes. Schedules. Terms of endearment. I gripped the phone tightly, my hold intensifying with each word I examined. The messages weren't merely passionate. They were familiar. Intimate in a way that only develops from time, confidence, and something genuine. This wasn't a fling of impulse or convenience. It was a relationship. And I was the idiot who never detected it. Moments later, the shower ceased. I drew a sharp breath, compelling myself to replace the phone exactly where I found it. My fingers felt numb. My actions deliberate, methodical. I could hear her moving the gentle creak of the flooring as she dressed, unaware that her meticulously constructed deceptions had just unraveled. She'd be descending soon, smiling like the ideal spouse. Like she hadn't just demolished our marriage. I inhaled deeply, gripping the table edge. This wasn't the time to confront. Not yet. The subsequent morning, I awoke with clarity and determination. I possessed all the evidence necessary in her phone. But I required something more substantial, something irrefutable. I wasn't merely going to challenge her. I intended to ensure there was no possibility for her to deny the truth. That same day, I engaged a detective. Someone subtle, competent, someone who had witnessed this form of betrayal countless times before. Monitor her. I instructed him. Gather everything possible. I need photographs, recordings, documentation, anything proving this is authentic. The investigator acknowledged. Give me 7 days. I barely needed to wait that long. Tiffany made it exceedingly simple. By the 3rd day, I had everything. Photographs of her kissing Landon in a bar parking area, holding hands while entering a hotel, spending nights with him. The proof was overwhelming. I didn't experience anguish anymore, just frigid, precise determination. I consulted my attorney that very afternoon. I presented everything, every piece of evidence, every detail of her treachery. There was no uncertainty in my voice when I explained what I desired. A divorce on my conditions. The residence was already mine, purchased before the marriage, making it separate property with appropriate legal measures. She wouldn't be able to claim any of my resources. My lawyer assured me that everything favored my position. The documents were submitted. Everything was proceeding. All that remained was removing her from my existence permanently. That evening, Tiffany went out again, spending time with friends. She stated, collecting her handbag, kissing my cheek as if nothing had changed, as if she wasn't abandoning our marriage for the 100th time. The moment she left, I contacted a locksmith. He arrived within 60 minutes, changed every lock. I said he completed his work without inquiry. When he finished, Tiffany wouldn't be able to enter my home again. Then I went upstairs, gathered all her belongings, and packed them into luggage. Every single item she owned: clothing, footwear, cosmetics, accessories, even her ridiculous scented candles. I packed everything. Then I waited. At 1:53 a.m., I heard her at the entrance. The sound of her key attempting to open the lock repeatedly. Then knocking, then banging. Then her voice agitated. What the hell? I took my time approaching the door before slowly opening it. Her expression was a mixture of bewilderment and rage. Trevor, the lock isn't functioning. I crossed my arms. Yeah, because I replaced them. She blinked, astonished. What? I remained silent. Just extracted the folder of photographs the detective had provided, those of her and Landon kissing in the parking area, holding hands. Entering the hotel, her complexion paled. Trevor, we're finished. I interrupted her. I know everything. She stood motionless, staring at the images as if she could somehow erase them through willpower. Trevor, it's not what it appears. I emitted a brief, caustic laugh. Don't attempt it, Tiffany. I understand precisely what this is. Months of dishonesty, sneaking around, intimate with another man, and then returning to me as if nothing occurred. Her eyes filled with artificial tears. Please, let's just discuss this. I raised my hand. No, nothing requires discussion. You no longer reside here. She gasped as I stepped aside, revealing the luggage arranged neatly by the entrance. Take your possessions, I said, my voice icy and depart. Her mouth opened and closed, her breathing irregular. You can't. I've already initiated divorce proceedings, I interjected. This is merely the beginning. She collapsed, then sobbing, pleading. Trevor, please. We can repair this. I shook my head. No, you destroyed this, and I'm done resolving your problems. Then I performed the final act she anticipated. I seized her bags and carried them outside wordlessly. She remained frozen in the doorway, observing as I placed them carefully on the porch. When I turned back to face her, her complexion was ashen, her eyes wide with shock. Goodbye, Tiffany. With that, I closed the door in her face. The divorce was rapid and merciless. Tiffany attempted to resist, naturally. She tried to portray the repentant wife, the woman who had committed an error and simply wanted to rectify matters. She wept in court, implored my lawyer, even sent me extensive, pitiful messages about her enduring love. But it was irrelevant. I possessed evidence. Every falsehood, every betrayal, every moment she believed she had concealed. It was all presented unambiguously. My attorney dismantled her argument systematically until nothing remained for her to grasp. By the conclusion, she departed with nothing. The residence. Mine, the finances. She didn't receive a penny of it, and I recovered well. She moved in with him almost instantly. I suppose she believed they would find happiness together, that he represented her future, that after everything, he would justify discarding. 7 years of matrimony. But it endured only 4 months. Then one day, I learned indirectly that he abandoned her. No forewarning, no justification. Simply vanished. As for myself, I didn't waste time grieving a life that was never authentic initially. The house. The one where I had created memories. The one where I had spent numerous nights awaiting her return. Felt like a mausoleum. A location where love had perished, buried beneath layers of deception and dishonesty. So I sold it, and left the city to commence anew. For the first time in ages, I felt liberated. I no longer carried the burden of betrayal. I didn't lie awake wondering about her whereabouts, her activities, her companions. I was finished, and it felt incredibly satisfying. Thank you for watching.